welcome back to another cup. Today I wanted to talk about what I think is the best recipe for pouring dark roast coffee. So I got a recipe from my friend Junyoung. He runs a cafe called Texture Coffee in Korea, and he kind of put me onto this idea of using like a 1:5 ratio. It's a very highly concentrated cup of coffee, but he adds water at the end. With that bypass, it really mellows out like the sharp acidic flavor of dark roasted coffee, but it still allows a lot of the actual flavor notes to come through. The recipe goes as you're using a 1:5 ratio at a 92 degrees Celsius water. The grind is going to be medium coarse, so on the Zp6 I'm going to be using a 5.5. The brewing recipe is a 3-pour method. So first we're going to bloom for 20, and then we're going to pour up to 60, and then we're going to pour to 100. And then from there afterwards, we're going to bypass the concentrate with an extra 120 milliliters of water. We're using Deer Coffee's Dark Brazilian El Paraiso. It's on the Zp6. I'm using a 5.5, and then I'm not doing an immersion. I'm using just the regular V60 switch glass with Hario 02 paper filter. So let's get started. So to start off, I'm going to be using 20 grams of coffee, but because the ratio is a 1:5, it's not actually that much. I tested earlier with 6 and found it to be a little bit too open in the flavor. It had a lot more intensity than I thought, but I also used a colder temperature. So I'm gonna sharpen it up because we're gonna bypass, and I think it's gonna, work out. So since this isn't a very long pour, we got our water set at 92. So the initial 30 is just to get the grounds wet and percolate. And so we let it set and bloom. And then what I like to do is at 45, I pour for the second 30 milliliters to 60. The full recipe draws down to about 2 minutes. So it's not a very long process. We should be reaching 1 minute 30. And then we pour to 100. To reach down to about 2 minutes, bypass with 120. We're just adding 120 milliliters into the concentrate. Aerate a little bit, cool it down, and that's pretty much it. Let's have a taste. Wow. Yeah, this is great. So with this 120 milliliter bypass, it really just mellows out the dark roasted toasted note flavor, but it goes back into a little bit of fruitiness and sweetness. You get the notes of, it's like fruity marshmallow, kind of like creamy situation. Fits within the profile that you would expect as a dark roast without it being so intense or not having the burnt cigarette taste. This recipe I think is the absolute best recipe for dark roast coffee, and thank you Junyoung for putting me on this recipe and with a little bit of modifications, and thank you Deer Coffee Roasters for roasting such a bean that has actual flavors that I can taste beyond just a burnt taste. If you enjoy dark roast coffee, please try this recipe and let me know, because I think this is the superior recipe for dark roast. If you liked the video, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Join my Discord. I want to have weekly coffee conversations and just do live taste testings with everybody. Anyways, see you in the next video. Peace.